Hello everyone, welcome to Horror Stravaganza Part 3. You know what a true travesty and an incredible shame is? The fact that one of the most quintessential VR games in all of existence, Cat Lateral Damage, is not yet playable on the Mini. Just kidding. The true disappointment today is the fact that we cannot yet play Ikaruga, one of the most incredible, impeccable shmup productions in all of existence, courtesy of the company Treasure, who also made such fantastic games as Alien Soldier, Guardian Heroes, Gunstar Heroes, Gradius 5, and before they were Treasure, some of the key development team members were actually part of Konami, and they made Contra 3 Alien Wars. But yes, this is one of the coolest shmups I've ever played, in my top 10 for sure. And this one has a very particular design motif that I absolutely love. The fact that you can go between dark and light, and depending on which one you are, you can actually dodge or be immune to enemy fire. Very, very cool stuff here. Look at this. Light, and I'm not getting hit whatsoever. Dark, not getting hit. But I switched at the wrong moment there, so I got hit. But you'll see this in action again for a moment here. And you can play this on your PS4 and Xbox One, and even Xbox 360 for now, but hopefully we'll get it going on the Mini in due time. Swap, swap. But as a true strategic element of design here, and there's actually another game on PS3 and Xbox 360 that has this design element in place as well, called Outland, which is a great Metroidvania style game. Incredibly awesome game here. By swapping the light, I'm not getting hit by that big beam there. Another moment here. Swap to dark, untouchable. Swap to light, untouchable. But I didn't swap, so I got touched. But we're going to move on to another game, and one sorry thing to mention here is that this game in particular, when it came out on Dreamcast and GameCube, it was an absolute failure, and it ended up in bargain bins in Walmart for only $5 to $10 US dollars, should I say. But if you go on eBay, it is not so cheap now. But yes, it was very easy to get because nobody bought it back in the day. But it is truly one of the best, most paramount shmups I've ever played. Right now we're going to be playing Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which is actually a fulfilled promise as a result of a crowdfunding for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, succeeding way beyond expectations. The original creator of the first Castlevania game is behind this, and this is basically bringing the Castlevania legacy into the current day times. And this one right here is actually the promise, fulfilled promise of the crowdfund, should I say, and it is an 8-bit style game in the vein of Castlevania 3. Incredibly awesome, and you'll see in a moment here. Never thought I'd be using my several hundred US dollar system, PS4, playing 8-bit games on it, should I say. I'll play Veteran because I'm fairly certain that Veteran mode will have kickback damage like in Mega Man and the original Castlevania, wherein you get hit by the Medusa heads or enemies in Mega Man and such, and you'll get kicked back to a good 5 to 10 feet. I'd rather have the original intended challenge factor to the game. But yes, this is incredibly awesome, and I can't wait till the full version of Ritual of the Night comes out for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. And up to this point, I'd have to say the best retro-style game that I've played in the last decade is probably Shovel Knight. I absolutely love that game, as well as all the DLC they had out for it. That is a great Mega Man-style game. And of course, Mighty Number 9 was supposed to be a lot like Mega Man. I still enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But due to them trying to put it out on way too many platforms at once, it kind of diminished as far as amplitude next to a game such as Shovel Knight. But I love both, and I've had incredible fun with both of them, of course. But this is very much like Castlevania 3, complete with more than one playable character. Incredibly awesome game here. And I'll definitely be coming back to this and playing it more. But we're going to have to move over to the Mini SNES and play some more Horror Stravaganza games. And even though it is a Friday the 13th and Saturday the 14th week, it does not mean that this is the only time of the year, along with Halloween, that I watch horror movies. Horror movies are my favorite genre, so I watch them all time, all year round. I'll recommend some of them in this video, of course, to watch. Yesterday I was actually watching a classic from the 80s called Monster Squad. Great movie. Same guy behind that actually did the movie Night of the Creeps as well, and had a little bit of work on Tales from the Crypt, that great horror anthology series. And I'm a big, tremendous fan of horror anthology series. You name it, anything from the original Boris Karloff's Thriller to Twilight Zone, the original Outer Limits, to more current stuff such as Black Mirror, and of course many of the 80s and 90s shows such as Monsters, Tales from the Dark Side, and you know, any other variant of those. I can list 50 to 100 anthology series I'm a big fan of. But yes, I grew up on stuff like Monsters and Tales from the Dark Side. I absolutely love those, and I've even watched stuff like should I say Are You Afraid of the Dark? And Goosebumps. Don't judge me, I watched them as well. I love any and all horror I can watch. And I've even watched Tales from the Crypt, the cartoon series. But we're going to move over to the mini now and check out some more horror extravaganza goodness. But yes, I'll be coming back to my other next-gen systems and showing some retro classics in the near future. So we're going to move on to a great Game Boy game called Castlevania Legends. And there are many different ways you can play this on the Mini. I'm going to show you the first and notable way to play it. And anytime you're running a Game Boy game on the Mini, I would highly recommend you run it on the Gambetta core. And I'll show you the name in a moment here. Gambetta. bin/Gambetta. Standard Game Boy games, they run better on Gambetta than MGBA. But one thing here, I'm going to start the game here. And many of you may be aware of the more recent developments in Super Game Boy goodness. I'm going to go over some of the specifics of that as well. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But we're playing this standard on Gambetta right now. And there's one very cool perk to Gambetta that many people may not be aware of, and I'll show you this. I'm in game now. Great classic retro Castlevania goodness here. I'm going to go into the quick menu options. And Game Boy colorization, I'm going to turn it on to auto. Resume. And I have this pseudo color palette now. Awesome stuff here. But this is actually one of the games that runs with the Super Game Boy palettes. So what I'm going to do is load core. And I'm going to go to the MGBA core right now. Load content. I'm doing a dummy folder method right now, but you could obviously do this from the user interface. Main user interface with the bin/MGBA. I'm going to the dummy folder. And I'm going to go to my Super Game Boy folder. And this is one of the games that has a fantastic border and nice color palette. So I'm going to load Castlevania with MGBA from my current set. Reselecting the Game Boy Advance MGBA core. Now I not only have the color palette, but I also have the border for Super Game Boy. Awesome stuff here. Look at this. Very nice, and a ton of games run with this. And I'm going to be doing another Game Boy video to cover some of the Game Boy woes, of course. You see the colors are different. Awesome stuff here. And it makes me really want to go play some of them Tiger handhelds with Simon's Quest and such. Very fun stuff. But we got many more games to go over in today's horror extravaganza. And speaking of Castlevania, I'm a big fan of MMORPGs, but not your typical MMORPG. I like ones that are more retro themed, like Phantasy Star Online V1 and V2, and of course the Castlevania Harmony of Despair game, which I played on Xbox 360 and PS3. They were very incredibly fun games. But there's a particular unlockable character, or should I say DLC style character that you can play in Castlevania Harmony of Despair, but he's from a Nintendo game that many of you may have not played because it was never released in the United States. And this character is Getsu Fuuma Den. Yes, he is actually a playable character in Castlevania Harmony of Despair, and even has a playable level in the game. But here he is in his own Famicom game. Great horror-themed classic game. And I really wish this would have been released statewide, because it is a great, great Konami action classic. And let's check this awesomeness out for a moment here. Again, any of you who have played Harmony of Despair would remember this character in the levels. Great, great music. Konami at its finest. A little bit of a Legend of Cage feel going on to it. But yes, if you love games such as Legend of Cage, you'll be right at home with this. And of course it has a nice horror themed appeal to it. It's almost like a Japanese-themed Castlevania game in essence. There you go. Go figure. But great, great game, and definitely a thorough surprise as far as unreleased in the States NES games are concerned. But we got more games to go over. We're going to do another on-rails shooter game, which I'm a big fan of in general, as mentioned before. I'm actually going to showcase 2 of those today. I did a Terminator game in my previous video, but now I'm going to do the arcade version of Terminator, which is a great, great on-rail shooter, and it runs incredibly well with the mouse. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And yes, many of these arcade shooters, such as the Aerosmith game, Terminator 2, they are far superior on the arcade version versus the home versions. I mean, it is what it is. But we're playing Terminator 2 Arcade using a mouse and OTG USB host. And we should be in game here in a moment. And again, Terminator 2 is, I've seen that movie a good dozen plus times. It is such an incredible movie. But I love all the Terminator movies in general. But I really, really wish they would do some sort of RoboCop versus Terminator crossover. That'd be incredible. Crossovers are amazing.
It's Judgment Day.
Here we go. Playing with the mouse.
Excellent.
And it controls quite well with the mouse. And again, in future updates, I may try to have calibration all preset, so you can literally just install RetroArch and then load games like this. This is not one of the more difficult ones to set up, but there are other games that require specific calibration, and I'm going to try to have those pre-calibrated to make gaming on your Mini much easier. The Aerosmith game is definitely one of these, and Steel Gunner 1 and 2. But great, great game here. Very, very fun to play. And I actually heard an interesting story the other day that I was unaware of. I mean, if you go on Reddit, they have Today I Learned and stuff like that. I read the other day about the same plane that Leonard Skinner ended up being on that crashed. Aerosmith actually turned down as their plane. They were originally going to fly on the plane before Leonard Skinner did. I mean... But somebody did a little bit of a survey and a security check, a safety check on the plane, and deemed it unsafe and unworthy as a plane. And Leonard Skinner didn't have that same luxury as an end result, and they ended up flying a plane, and we all know what happened. And I'm a big fan of the movie Almost Famous, which is kind of loosely based on Leonard Skinner as a whole. Great, great movie, classic. But we're going to do the other on-rail shooter now for Sega CD, a great, great one. And if you try playing this game with one controller, you're going to notice one particular thing to the game that is kind of a little bit tricky to pick up. You'll see what I mean in a moment here. We're going to go to Sega CD. And this game runs on both Pico Drive and Genesis Plus GX. But it's called Corpse Killer. Great, great game. And you cannot start the game with controller 1. You actually need a controller and port number 2 to start the game, which is kind of disconcerting and unintuitive. You're going to be thinking the game isn't working and trying to push start on player 1 controller, but it doesn't work. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But it's kind of funny because I'm running this on Sega CD, yet the graphics are so goofy and silly, it actually pales in comparison to some of the earlier Unreal shmups that I played, such as Gotcha on NES. I actually had more fun playing Gotcha on NES because you had the combination of being able to move left and right with a controller, as well as use the light gun. That was an incredible experience. Absolutely love that game. But we're playing Corpse Killer right now. And I push start on controller number 2. Remember, you need a second controller to push start for Corpse Killer.
You dying, Lieutenant. Zombie bite got the poison in you. Winston Crown. Yeah, man.
And there's actually a button you can push on controller number 1, which will actually escape and kind of abort the mission like I just did there too. So again, it's a little bit unintuitive, but I'll try this one more time.
This retreat is probably routine.
So first of all, it throws you off by having controller 2 needed to push start, and then on controller 1 you can push a button which will cancel your mission. So yes, it's very, very unintuitive, but still a fun game. And here we go. Look how goofy these graphics are. I would have actually loved to see the making of this game and the goofy blue screens they did for the captures. It's always cool seeing when they do stuff like this for movies such as Matrix, but look, flying zombie there, that's just flying zombie out of place, very, very ridiculous there. But yes, when you have your incredible games such as Night Trap and Terminator on Sega CD, you have the goofy, very over-the-top silly games such as Corpse Killer as well. But still a very, very fun experience, and I had fun playing it. But again, it doesn't hold up to the candle of original NES light gun games such as Gotcha. But of course, when you play some of the games that were made by the Dragons there, you know, the digital Leisure Suit Larry, you know what I mean. Flub there. Complete flub. I'm talking about Mad Dog McCree, but I flubbed it there. Because I combined digital Leisure with Leisure Suit Larry. Little flub there. We're going to move on to another horror game, though. This right here is actually my personal favorite horror survival game on the Super Nintendo. And I found this in a bargain bin of all places, along with another great Strider-style game called Run Saber. But this is by far one of my underrated gems for Super Nintendo, one of the best games. It is also made by Human Entertainment, which made such great games, such as Pro Fire Wrestling. Many of their games were not released in the United States, but this is one of their games that did make it into the United States. But if you're a fan of disaster films such as Poseidon Adventure, Tower and Inferno, and even Daylight, which is a great Sylvester Stallone movie which is similar to that theme, and of course the remake of Poseidon with Kurt Russell, I enjoyed that as well. You'll like this game. Fun stuff here. But essentially, you're on a ship that is going to sink. And you have a limited amount of time, which never displays on the screen, to make it out of the ship alive. And you can try to rescue people on the way throughout your journey. And you can actually use the AI in such a funny fashion where you can actually make the people kill themselves in very, very silly ways. But if you want a horror survival game that you've never played before, definitely check out SOS. And note there are 2 different SOS games on the SNES. This is the one that I'm referring to, not the other one. But it starts out all calm and serene and very nice like your typical game. But as you progress, there are actually milestones that you pass and timed events where, I don't want to say too much, but the ground may shift, certain things may break, and the entire environments change in very creative ways. It's definitely an underrated gem worth playing. I don't want to play too much into it because I want you to experience it for yourself. But definitely check out SOS. Great, great game. And I've beaten this game probably a good 50 plus times over the years. And I'm actually running this via Canoe right now. It's actually one of the first games I ever ran on the SNES Classic via Canoe when we first got Hashi 2 going for it. We got more horror-themed games to go here, though. And we all know about this great, great NES one here. Let's go to it real quick. This is kind of a black sheep in the NES library, but I still have a lot of fun playing it, regardless. Fester's Quest. This is made by the incredible company Sunsoft, who also made the great Gremlins 2 game, Blaster Master, Euphoria, Batman, and many other games before they went defunct and bankrupt, unfortunately. It's also one of those games like Gradius where once you die, you start out very, very low powered. It is incredibly difficult to ever catch up again, so don't die. The other thing that makes this game incredibly awesome is playing it with an NES Advantage and having Turbo Fire. Again, if you have CloverCon installed on your Mini, which is done by default when you install kernel on your Hashi 2 CE and such, which is the Hashi 2 that I use, you can just hold down the attack button, hold down the select button, and you get Turbo Fire. And Turbo Fire is a true blessing in this game. Definitely never play this game without Turbo Fire. But again, as you upgrade your game and you die later on in the game, it's going to be incredibly difficult to ever catch up again. So just don't die. Just do your best not to die. Here we go. Upgraded weapon here. But this is not one of the better selling Sunsoft games, but it is an incredible game if you can get past the extremely, abnormally difficult learning curve as far as the difficulty is concerned. But again, Turbo Fire certainly helps out tremendously in this game. What was really, really cool about, I'm going to disable Turbo Fire here for a moment. Make sure it's disabled. What you may not realize is that Atari, actually, Nintendo approached Atari because they wanted Atari, who had known success with the Atari 2600 and other such systems, to help them get the Nintendo a foothold in the United States. And Atari turned them down over some disagreements with as far as how much each company would make off the venture, and Atari ended up making the Atari 7800 instead to compete with the Nintendo that Nintendo had come out. And of course, what came out as a result on the Atari 7800, and I'm going to show you this. It is one of the few great Atari 7800 games we're playing. Also a horror-themed game, Midnight Mutants. But yes, Atari 7800 won head-to-head with Nintendo and obviously failed miserably as a result. But after Nintendo didn't fare well with Atari and their disagreements with the venture and such, they approached Worlds of Wonder, the company responsible for getting Teddy Ruxpin out, and they helped Nintendo get their foothold in the United States. And once Nintendo had their system come out and succeeded with Super Mario Brothers and such, they didn't need Worlds of Wonder anymore, and they dropped them. And of course, Worlds of Wonder went defunct and bankrupt afterwards. But yes, this is Atari 7800 compared to, should I say, Fester's Quest on Nintendo. This is basically a glamorous Atari 2600 to 5200. Nothing too special. But it is fun for you Atari enthusiasts nonetheless. They certainly didn't go out of their way. They have a tremendous scope for a soundtrack here. But yes, this is Midnight Mutants, an Atari 7800 game. But one thing you might notice here, and I'm going to do a very, very quick test example here. If you played some of the PlayStation 1 games, such as Jedi Power Battle, you'd realize that the game is unplayable because it crashes due to dynamic recompiler issues. Should I say that one more time since I flubbed it? Dynamic recompiler issues. And this affects cores such as Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, and so on. As a result, you have games crash. But I'm going to play another game of the Parasite Eve Legacy. And should I say here, I have to step back a moment. Parasite Eve 2 has tremendous issues running on the Mini. It crashes every time you try changing an environment sequence. But I'm going to run another Parasite Eve game that does run incredibly well on the Mini if you happen to use the PSP performance upgrade that I posted a while back. It is Third Birthday, aka Parasite Eve 3. Yes, it is actually Parasite Eve 3 without the Parasite Eve title. Great, great game. And I am running this with the PSP performance upgrade right now. But unfortunately, if you try to run Parasite Eve 2 on the Mini, it will crash the moment you try getting out of the gun range, which is very sorrowful because it is an incredible game. Well worth your time. You can get through the game and kind of like limp through the game if you use a combination of exploits for the save states as well as disabling dynamic recompiler. I mean, I'm going to have to do an entire video on that, but it is absurd to try to even get the game to run on the Mini. Unfortunately, it runs much better on the PC, or if you have the game on your PS3, Vita, and PSP and such. But great, great game. Definitely worth your time to play. And this game right here that I'm running is an e-boot that is 1.2 gigabytes in size, so it takes a little bit longer to load. But we're going to be in game here. And it runs quite well using the PSP performance upgrade. Any games that wouldn't typically run well, install the PSP performance upgrade, and you can run games such as this and Burnout Legends and such at a much better frame rate. But this is a great horror-themed game, well worth your time on the Mini. And we'll be in action here in a moment. And even though some games may seem like they're taking longer to load, don't start freaking out and trying to go into RetroArch options or push and start relentlessly, because like on the computer, if you try opening the program multiple times, you're going to end up having Google Chrome open 11 times in a row after it finally opens. Just be patient. But great, great Square Enix game here, and we're going to be playing in a moment here. And again, I think this game would have done much better if it would have actually notated that it was part of the Parasite Eve legacy. But yes, it is a Parasite Eve game. I like how it has me on hard difficulty to begin with. Yes, I'm going to just play hard difficulty. Why not? But you see a game called Third Birthday, you're not going to know it's Parasite Eve. Just like when I, many years ago, watched the movie Jason X, I didn't even know it was a Friday the 13th movie until I started watching it. Now notice I'm having a little difficulty controlling my character. I'm using my left analog and my D-pad, and I can move the camera, but I can't really move around. So what you want to do on the PSP is go into your options for controls, and you're going to see analog to digital type. You're going to need to disable it on quite a few games. Many games you're going to need to simply disable it to none, and then you'll be able to properly control your character in the game. Otherwise, you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Now that I have it disabled, I can actually control properly. And of course I want to get into, very, very cool here. You can tell, Square Enix made the game.
The sacrifice incident from a year ago.
But it runs quite nicely. Now try to get to an enemy battle here.
In case you're wondering, you're inside a National Guard, Aya, but your body is still inside the CTI building.
We're going to get you started. Blank will navigate you. Don't forget that you're in a war zone.
I'm really digging the soundtrack. The enemies are called Twisteds.
The troops involved in the sacrifice incident were annihilated. It's been reported that they ran into some enormous twisted called Reapers.
I can tell you one thing. They're gonna be a huge pain.
First, we need to get our hands on any information we can.
Why do games like Parasite Eve and Resident Evil always have terrible voice work?
Here's a refresher.
Okay. Lock on to target, fire weapon. I'd have to say Metal Gear Solid 5 is probably one of the best voice works that I've seen in a long time. I mean, this game here, along with Resident Evil, it is very, very goofy with the voice work. And very, very monotone, like they're just reading lines off of paper. But I'm essentially going through a mini tutorial here. There we go, here's some enemies.
Show them what you learned in training.
Not yet.
But yes, if you want to have a fix of Parasite Eve, play Third Birthday. Great, great game. It really feels like I'm playing a PlayStation 2 on my Mini right now. This is one of the better games I've played, and just runs very, very nicely. I can deal with it. But hope you enjoyed the Horror Stravaganza Part 3. And there'll definitely be more videos throughout this week. And enjoy your Friday the 13th. Make sure you watch some horror movies, whether or not they're new or older. I mean, if you like ultra-violent movies as well, my recommendation for an ultra-violent movie, and it starts out like your normal, typical, everyday drama with Vince Vaughn, is called Brawl in Cell Block 88. The nice first 40 minutes of the movie are standard dramatic movie. But once you get past the 40-minute mark, you're into probably the most violent movie you could ever play on your Blu-ray player that is equivalent to playing basically Mortal Kombat. There are literally fatalities in the game as far as the violence. It's ridiculous. Definitely check it out. Brawl in Cell Block 88. And the thing that is very, very interesting about the movie is that many critics typically rate violent movies on a lower scale. They're very niche. But if you look at Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, you're going to find out that both critics and end users alike both loved Brawl in Cell Block 88. It's probably one of my ultra favorite violent movies in the last decade, along with The Raid and Raid 2 Redemption. So definitely check them out.